What is going on, guys? Pigskin20 back again with a brand new video as we are here in the dark at Mount Panorama for the very first daily race that I've ever been a part of, where it is nighttime, and I have to say it does not disappoint. This has been one of the craziest but one of the awesomest daily races that I've had in a very long time. Especially after a great couple of weeks of daily races, especially last week at Willow Springs. This is a really good refresher to just cleanse the palate, get you guys into a brand new setting, and also have you guys race in a brand new environment where it is just darkness and just basically using the headlights to navigate your way through this difficult track of Mount Panorama. Anyways, I don't want to blabber a lot. We're just going to jump right into it. If you guys really enjoy the content, please subscribe to the channel and leave a like on the video, as it really helps out the channel when you guys do so. Anyways, that is enough promoting myself. Let's jump straight into this awesome race. Now, as we jump into the race here, we are starting in 4th place as we did get a 2:03.8. I've been trying all week to try to get it down to a 2:02, but I just haven't been able to get it down to the 2:02, as we do have 2 Brazilians ahead of us, 3rd place an American and a Brazilian behind us now, as we're heading down the straight for the first time going into the first corner. So as we head into the first corner, braking right before the 50-meter board, we get a great exit coming out of that first corner, leading us into the straight for the very first time, staying right behind the Aston Martin ahead of us. That is probably the best car around this track. If not, it is the Corvette, as both of those have really good straight line speeds, but not only that, it's really good on the corners. So kind of get the best of both worlds. That's what you need here at Mount Panorama. You need a car that's going to be really good on the straight, but also be able to handle on the corners, so you can't just pick the speed over the cornering. You got to have the best of both worlds. As you can see, majority of the people decided to pick the Aston Martin, as we are heading down to the beginning of the top of the hill here at Mount Panorama. So heading to these 2 left-handers that are very, very difficult. We almost made contact with the wall as the second place driver is just kicking dirt all over the place, blinding us a little bit. You can see how difficult it is to just navigate our way through the mountain, especially in the darkness, as there really isn't that much light except for your headlights. As we're heading to the right-hander, you see right here,
all around me are familiar faces.
Run into the Aston Martin as we run into the back of him, and we get a 2-second penalty.
All around me are familiar faces.
Get a 2-second penalty for making contact with the back of the Aston Martin that crashed into the wall. Very unfortunate for us, as I did everything I can to try to break and avoid that Aston Martin, but GT Sport, this penalty system, thought that I'd try ramming him off, and I get a 2-second penalty for that horrible mistake right there. As you can see, he actually tries slowing down right there. He actually gets bumped out from the car behind him. So he tried slowing down because he felt bad for making me get that 2-second penalty, which is good on him, but he should have kept going, as the car behind him accidentally rammed into the back of him and just ruined his race probably even more than what had originally been ruined, as he did hit that wall, slow down, and we had to get that 2-second penalty. So on the second lap here, we get around the Brazilian driving the Mustang, as he had to serve his penalty here. So a lot of cars getting penalties, as it's a really big penalty galore if you go through this mountain and accidentally make contact with the car, because it's so easy to run into one of these walls because of how narrow this track is. And if you do so, it slows down the car in front, and if you're right behind the car in front and you guys are nose to tail, especially if you have other cars behind you, it's very easy to just accidentally make contact with the car ahead, get that 1 or 2-second penalty. So it's just something you have to think about when you're driving through Mount Panorama, depending on how close you want to be to the car ahead of you, or if you can get enough space to you know, avoid any type of things that you can see that one of the cars already is going wide there. So going into the right-hander again, a couple of cars tangle up as the Viper and the Aston Martin go very, very slow. There's even more contact here as the Brazilian made contact with the Canadian. Going into the replay here, you can see that the one of the Aston Martin just misses his turning point. The Viper misses his turning point, heads straight into the wall, and these guys are just beating and banging because there's just not enough room to try to navigate through your way down the hill. And we are now making overtake on the Viper as we're heading onto the inside of the Aston Martin. Heading to the left hand, we make a little bit of contact with the Aston Martin, push him a little bit wide, and we are able to get the position here, as it was just craziness all over the place. We were inside a car, cars going left and right, spinning all over the place. and somehow we are now elevated into 4th place after being in 7th place in the beginning of the lap. So able to make up 3 positions now as we're working on the Canadian. Again, just staying on the slipstream here as we're heading to the final part of the lap, heading into the final chicane as we break right before the 100-meter board. And you can see we're getting closer and closer to the Canadian, but he is pulling away from us now as we head into lap number 3. So on lap number 3, heading into the 2nd corner as we now start working our way up the mountain. We're a little bit faster than the Canadian on the mountain part, but you can see behind us we're getting pressured by the Brazilians. He's flashing his lights trying to distract us, and that is one thing that is very useful when you guys are racing here, especially at nighttime. If you're right behind a car, try flashing your lights. It can be a dirty move. It depends on how much of morality you have when it comes to racing with other drivers. I don't usually do it, but if you guys want a cool little party trick to try to distract the driver ahead of you, just to let them know that you're right behind them, just flash the lights, and trust me, it will definitely give them a huge scare and distract them, because the Brazilian tried doing that to me, and I'm not gonna lie, going up the hill, it kind of did scare me. I was a little bit worried because it just made me focus on my mirror more and more because of seeing how close he was to me. But luckily we were able to kind of get away from him. As you can see, he turns off his lights and shines it back on, trying to distract us. And fortunately we were able to get further enough away to not be distracted too much from him, as we are now jumping into the 4th lap here. So on the 4th lap, again, just getting ever so close to the Canadian ahead of us, as every single lap we were able to close the gap ever so slightly. But you can see we don't want to get too close to him through the mountain section, as one simple mistake from the Canadian ahead of us, as he actually scrapes the wall right there, can easily spell disaster for us, and we can get another penalty that will easily take us out of the contention to try to fight for a podium. So we're just biding our time here, trying to keep our distance away from the Canadian, not let him get too far away but not get too close to him, as you can use the slipstream on this final corner here, or not on the final corner but on the straight here, as we come out of the final corner of the mountain part. This straight right here, you can just stay right behind the car ahead, use the slipstream, and it will propel you so far ahead. You can easily make up about half a second here, as you're actually demonstrating that right now. Going down the straight as we're about to head into the fast right-hander, look at how much time we gain on him, as we actually have to lift off the throttle so we avoid making contact with him. Take a peek onto the inside as we head into the chicane once again, and unfortunately we're just a little too far back to try to make any type of move, as if we were to have tried to send it into the inside, we actually would have accidentally made contact with the Canadian and spin him out or something. So we have to wait patiently, as we do have 5 laps left, well now 4 laps left, so we just have to wait for a good time to try to make a move on the Canadian ahead of us. So on the mountain part, once again, as we are on the 5th lap, we're about to start heading to the downhill part, and look how close we got to his back bumper, as we're just avoiding trying to make contact with him, as we make just the slightest amount of contact. But look at what happens here. We get another second penalty, this time for forcing another car off the track, as I honestly didn't even think that was going to give us a penalty. As we go into the replay right here, we just make the slightest amount of contact with the Canadian, and I think the fact that he hit the wall just decided to GT Sport the penalty system that we made contact with him and he went off the track. So now we have to serve this 1 second penalty, and if you guys know the penalty system here, especially on this track where the penalty zone is located at, it just makes it more than 1 second of a loss. As you can see, we were about 3/10 behind him, but now we are losing about over 1.5 seconds from the 3rd place driver, just because of where the penalty zone was at. So we drop back all the way to 2 seconds here as we now jump into the 6th lap, and all we have to do now is just try to catch up to him, as I'm just pushing as much as I can to come out of the final corner. And we can look at the gap right here, as we have a 2 second gap to him now, as we cross the start finish line, leading us into lap number 7. So just very unfortunate, as we had 3 seconds worth of penalties on this race, especially because it wasn't our fault. But we just have to take what we can and try to brush it off our shoulders, and just try to put in as fast laps as we can, as we actually are closing the gap from to 3rd place, as we have now closed it to 1.7 seconds, but we only have 2 laps left. So I'm not sure if this is going to be enough to catch up to him now, as we're heading to the final part of the mountain on the 8th lap. Coming down the mountain here, we're coming to the final corner that leads us into the final straight. and you can see we're getting closer and closer to the Canadians. He actually made a couple of mistakes going up and down the mountain, so we were able to bring down the gap from 2 seconds back on lap 6 all the way down to 1 second here, as we're now coming down the straight leading us into the final chicane. We still have a whole entire lap that we can try to make up some time on the Canadian ahead of us, and if we can get close enough to him, we can put the pressure on him and force him into a penalty or into a mistake, and see if we can get around him, capitalize on that mistake, and get our podium that we so deserve here, as we are now coming to the final corner on lap number 8. So on the final corner here, clip our apex pretty well, and this is now going to be the mad dash to the finish, as we're going to do as much as we can to push the car, run inside the lines of the track to avoid getting an off-track penalty, but push the car to its limits and see if we can catch up to this Canadian here and get the podium, as we're now coming down the front stretch, or the second straightaway, for the final time, leading us into the mountain. So on the final lap here, we're not going the fastest times. That's not the fastest sector that we put in for this race, but we did put in an alright sector. We're only down by 0.02 of a second, but heading to the top of the mountain right now, we're going to try to push as much as we can. The Canadian takes a very narrow entrance heading to the left-hander, and actually it's going to cost him here, as we gain about 0.3 of a second now, heading straight up to the top of the mountain, and into these 3 left-handers, which is very, very difficult. Again, we hit our first one all right. Can we hit our second one all right? Yes, we do. And the Canadian, you can see, actually gets a really bad exit there, as we try to hit our third one correctly, and we are able to do so now as we close the gap to half a second, probably even less than half a second. Going down the downhill part now, this is going to be very crucial to stay as far away from him, as we don't now want to accidentally make contact with his back bumper and risk getting another 1 second or 2 second penalty, as we are now coming to the final corner. Going to the left-hander, he gets very, very loose as he comes out of that left-hander, and look at this, we are all over his back bumper now as we are on the slipstream of the Canadian. Try to shift off to the right-hand side. I think we made a little bit of contact with him, so it kind of pushed him up forward and gave him a little bit of speed, as we are now going back into the slipstream, shifting back to the right hand. Try to avoid making contact with him, as we are going to go into the fast right-hander side by side here. He actually backs out of there as we make the overtake now, heading into the final chicane, break right before the 100-meter board, and we're able to complete the move right on the Canadian, as we have only 1 corner left. We're going to shift it onto the right-hand side and try to see if we could defend our position going into the final corner. Coming to the final corner now, we're going to be able to hold off our 3rd place as we take a defensive line coming out, and luckily the Canadian gets a really bad exit. We flash our lights in excitement, and we get this podium here at Mount Panorama in the dark for an exciting race here, after having to deal with 3 penalties, avoid some of the crashes that were happening on the mountain, and somehow we were able to fight our way back into 3rd place. So really hard fought 3rd place, and I have to give props to the Canadians. He did race really cleanly with me, especially going side by side into that fast right-hander. Yeah, really fun race. I'm enjoying this Mount Panorama race in the dark. It just brings a whole different kind of look into GT Sport, and I really hope that they implement this more, at least in GT Sport's lifetime, before GT7 comes out. And when GT7 comes out, maybe they can do dynamic time, so that you start like around, you know, sunset or even the afternoon, and then transition to nighttime. That'd be very cool, but that's just things that I'm just blurring out for GT7. But anyways, hope you guys found this video entertaining. If you guys did, again, please subscribe to the channel and leave a like on the videos. It really helps out the channel when you guys do so. And if you guys enjoyed the video, I hope to see you guys on the next one. Peace out.